We will convene the meeting. All right. Oh, let's see. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Brown.
Present.
Pascalakis.
Here.
G.
Oh,
E.
Truman.
Mr.
Truman.
G.
He's not here. G.
Lamont. Remark.
Here.
Kostadakis.
Here.
Webster.
Here.
Doan. Here. Libby.
Here.
Chapin.
He's the alternate.
He's the alternate for Truman
so
G.
he's not
So.
here every time, yeah.
Okay, very good. Shall we stand, do the pledge, and Tracy, will you then lead us in?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, we just thank you for bringing us safely here today, and all the visitors that we are in town, just bless them and keep them safe as well. Pray guide our discussions, keep us open to each other, and give us your wisdom so we might make sound decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Do we have any comments with respect to the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Remark.
Well, actually, I gave the grammatical corrections earlier to Beth, but I think without Jason here, we might have to wait, because two of the comments are on what Jason was actually saying and what he meant. So maybe if we could, is he going to be here later?
Yes.
If we could come back to these?
Okay, we can
Great.
pass
Some corrections.
Oh, you, okay.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah. First, on page 3, the third to the bottom paragraph, Mr. Libby stated that he was on the Board of Adjustments, and then the rest of this, I don't know where this came from. It certainly didn't come from the tape. The comment was that on the Board of Adjustments, owners who came before us looking for consideration always made sure their properties were in good shape. And this one was a mess with garbage and...
So you missed the middle part.
Yeah. So I don't know how you want to correct that. Maybe I'll see the secretary after the meeting, because a lot of it is, it's the first sentence.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest Jeannie Tolley in our office, who had to step in at the last minute and create these minutes. We'll go back to the tape and we'll make a note here.
Well, then actually, do you want me to just tell you the parts to check on the tape as well?
Sure.
Because actually, that's all she has to do
Okay,
then.
that's what we'll do.
Let me finish. And then
Okay,
we'll go to-
right,
go back.
I'm sorry. Yep.
Page 17, the second paragraph there, the last word should be structured, not structures, a typo. The only
Where
other
are
comment-
you? Wait, I'm
This is on page 17,
The
the
last-
second paragraph. Mr.
Oh,
Libby stated
second.
he wanted staff to look at other communities to see how their
Got it.
advisory boards were structured.
Okay.
The only other comment I have is on page 2, the paragraph under board action, paragraph 2, about the addendum and the 10-minute break. I understand that has gotten very confused and was revisited at the city commission meeting. Let the record reflect, it was my understanding that 4 members of the board did not receive their documents. It is not that we forgot them and forgot to bring them to the meeting, which caused a 10-minute delay and Xeroxing of missing documents. It was that members of the board did not receive complete packets. Is that
That was my
correct?
understanding.
And actually, that's what the minutes say, if Mr. Chisholm had read them.
We've done, obviously, when that came to the commission and there was questions about what happened, we were doing further follow-up to find out after the meeting and then with the commission, and in response to when we have members of the public who come to the meetings and they make those statements. Thank you, John. We now have a new procedure where we actually are required to provide some kind of a written response to those kinds of issues that come up, and at least give some kind of a response, the responsible staff member, whoever. So what we did in this case is went back and asked, did the mail go out by the people who were responsible for getting the mail out? And this was remember, you got a packet early on, that was the primary packet, and then you got another one which was a separate that was done with our planning staff, and they put together a packet that went out on a Friday before the meeting, and went into the U.S. mail, and we only had one of those come back to our office. And so there's an assumption on our part they got to everybody. That doesn't mean they got there on time, or they went to a place where, we think we have all the right information. Did everyone get their packet this?
Mine came the day
This time?
after the meeting.
Mine
Okay.
never showed up.
Very good. So we sent it on a Friday, and it's going to get there, on a Thursday. I don't know why, but there have been some problems reported with just the sending out local mail.
Mr. Berger, I understand all of this, and I agree with you 100%. The perception at a city commission meeting
Right.
was that members of this advisory board forgot to bring their documents with them, and therefore we had to
Yeah.
adjourn the meeting for 10 minutes, and the staff had to take it upon themselves to reproduce documents that members of this
Okay.
board forgot to bring.
And-
that has to be corrected on the
Okay.
record.
Right. And where was that said?
At a city commission.
Forgot?
The city manager
Okay.
said it.
I didn't catch
that we
that.
forgot.
Now I see what you're talking. Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And
Alrighty then.
now I know we're on the minutes, but it's sort of pertinent to what we were just saying about timing. Could I interrupt? Were you done?
I am
Okay.
finished, thank you very much.
And rather than bring it under board comments, there's a problem with relying on the mail because we no longer have a Daytona Beach post office. So it used to be, because I've gotten plenty of things in the mail, you drop them in the mail on Thursday, October 6th, and in Daytona, when we had a post office here, a routing center, you used to get them the next day. I did not get this packet, which thank goodness it was very light, until Monday evening. I had a meeting, so I couldn't even read this until last night because it took from the 6th until the 10th to show up in my mailbox. So if we're going to mail them, we need to mail them like 8 days before we're supposed to have, because I ran into, Friday, Saturday, it didn't make it. Sunday, mail's not delivered. Monday, I get it. So it either needs.
I got mine Saturday, and I live on the same street,
Street.
5 houses away from Tracy.
So if we're
And-
going to mail, it needs to be earlier to take into account it goes to Lake Mary first before it comes back here, or we need to go back to delivery.
Or email. A lot of this stuff could be scanned.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
But then you have to print it out. You want to print out the whole thing? No.
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 Maybe, but.
Just to give you an idea, Dina, my internet at my store has been down since Sunday, since the
Okay,
storm.
all right.
Could I just ask maybe that you do send us some material as quickly as you can, as
and we know
expeditiously
you-
as you can? Don't worry about our getting it too early.
Well, and I think what you'll see most of the time is you will see me or someone else who will be acting as the delivery agent, because that's what we usually end up doing. We want to guarantee that it's there by at least Saturday,
Yeah.
and handed by person to you in some fashion that you can get to it.
Thank you.
Okay. If you don't hear anything, too, and I'd encourage you to again call our office too. If I know every second Wednesday, where is that darn thing?
Well, if I hadn't
Call
been
me.
coming back from vacation and hadn't noticed that this wasn't in the pile of mail
Yeah.
that I didn't, I would have normally called
Yeah,
too.
and we'll be
but-
glad to, if we have to make an
Sort of
additional
perfect
packet,
storm.
whatever. And for somebody, if you want an email, we can do that as well. We've found that when we've offered email in the past with the packets, it was a very inconsistent in terms of who
Yeah.
wanted it or used it.
Okay.
It's a lot of information.
All right,
Any
now
other-
2 other places to check on the tape. Page 2, action item under 6, at the bottom, that entire first sentence, something is wrong there. Mr. Jeffries stated the request for a temporary parking lot at 41 North Orange was approved by the City Commission based on recommendations. Actually, what we were doing that evening was making the recommendations. It hadn't gone to Planning Board. I think he may have been talking about the changes that we made in the Land Development Code about temporary parking lots, not this one in particular. So that language needs to be corrected. And then page 13, under item 7, the 1 to the 3rd paragraph under item 7, starting with Mr. Jeffries, that whole thing doesn't even make sense. I don't know what that is about. It's like 3 different sentences that maybe came together. So if you could just figure out what that one was.
Yeah,
Any other comments with respect to the minutes from the other board members? I'll agree. I just got my package actually this afternoon since I was out on vacation till late last night, and I found these set of minutes confusing, not complete. On page 7, near the middle upper third, it says Mr. Webster stated the board had already amended that section to delete the roundabout, yet I don't see any reference to the motion or the discussion on that motion. And there was a
that whole
good deal
part
of
was-
discussion
yeah.
with respect to the roundabout, and I think that's important, and I think that all needs to be fleshed out on top of what Tracy mentioned there. So what I'd like to suggest is that we send the minutes back for reconsideration at our next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
We will bring them back. Thank you.
Moving on to staff reports. Do we have any staff reports, Reed? And
I don't know what's happening, but we do not have people here. I can only think Biketoberfest is having an impact on our personnel.
okay, I suspected that might happen. I would really like to request that our next meeting, even though it's not necessarily on the quarterly flow, that we have the police report and be prepared to bring us up to speed.
Will do.
All right, and we did have some. We did have the ComStat report, and we did have a code case summary. So, all right, we will move on then. Do we have any public comments, John?
troublemaker.
Since you're our only public,
Yeah. Actually, I thought you were going to cancel the meeting.
we're not feeling loved here. I don't know.
One, if I could add to the correction to the minutes, on page 11, top of the page, he stated the plan indicates there will be many bars in the area, and for years, bars were wanted, and the area it should have been not wanted. For years, we had always said we did not want a street full of bars.
You know, I thought that's what you said, but you
Yeah.
weren't here to answer.
So I would ask that you put in the word not in front of word wanted, not wanted, the very last word. Very, very top, very first sentence.
Yeah, that is what you said.
It is.
Yeah. So that's what I thought I had said.
It's like I didn't bring it.
Yeah. Secondly, several years ago, we had a person named David who was the personal rep. Some of you probably remember David. The Midtown Board has one particular person whose sole job is to work on Midtown. Downtown has one person, Jeffries, whose sole job is to work on downtown. You had somebody, and you haven't had him for what, 3 years, 4 years, that David's been gone. I think since you are the largest in terms of money, activities, value of land, that you all should consider having someone geared just for Main Street, just for the problems that exist on the boardwalk, communicating with the business owners, anything that needs to be done to push for advertisement, push for people coming down to Main Street, that kind of thing. I think you need to have that person. I know Reed is filling in, but Reed can only fill in for so much. I think you need a singular person to do this. Downtown has, what, 5 people helping them push downtown, and you have 0 or half a person. I think you really should consider the idea of having that person replaced. And lastly, I was the pain in the butt that brought before the City Commission the concept that many of the boards, and then I singled you all out, were getting information at the last minute, and decisions had to be made that night. And my comment was that the Main Street Board was told that they had to make a decision that night and that it couldn't be put off because it was going to go to the Planning Board. Then the Planning Board had to make a decision because it was going to the City Commission. Many times the City Commissioners get documents at the night of the City Commission, documents are placed in front of them. My comment was that there should be time, i.e. 4 days or whatever, and the documents should be allowed to be discussed, and if need be, an additional week to discuss, or an additional month to discuss it, another meeting. And during that time, the city manager leaned over to the mayor and said something, and the mayor immediately said that I was wrong, that you all did not have a 10-minute delay, and that those people who did not have the documentation left them at home. I was taken aback, didn't know what to say, so I just kind of put my tail between my legs and walked away. So I was the one who thought and said that you all had 4 packets that did not have the documentation, that you had taken a 10-minute recess, the documents were reproduced, brought back to you, and there wasn't enough time for that many pages to read them, comprehend them, and to discuss them. That was my genesis. And in essence, one of the people in the audience said that the mayor called me a liar. I did not think he called me a liar, but he did implicate that what I was saying was not factual. I believe you did have a 10-minute delay. I didn't implicate that. I do believe that you had your packets with you because you said you had them. So I do not believe I was mistaken on either one of those. And I do believe that 28 pages is an awful lot to read and comment on in one night. All right,
Thanks, John.
thank you.
May we revert back to code? Officer Fitzgerald, you're on.
Hi, how are you all today?
Good.
This is the October report. We had a total of 47 cases open this last month, and 37 in Main Street. Most of them were maintenance code issues, 4 lot clearances, and 10 in South Atlantic. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of before the Daytona Proud project started, and properties going through that. This was 219 North South Atlantic, and they had all this was, it really needed paint the whole building very badly. They went through everything back here. The stairs they repaired all around the building. And this is what it looks like now. It's all been painted across the hallway. I don't know if you all see a difference when you go by. Mm-hmm. Okay. 245 North Halifax. Some of you will remember this one. We had to cut off the water, evict people. It was a big thing. This is what the building looked like. Very dirty, very bad. It's in process of being done. They're bringing it all up to date, new windows, new doors, painting in new colors.
Was it sold?
Yeah, it was sold. And they're really going to do some awnings here. They're going to have some awnings back here. They've repaired this wall, which was the first problem I had with the property. And they're putting a lot of money into it. And granite countertops, stainless steel. They're going for high end.
Interesting color, though.
Yeah. It's a designer they hired. Oh well, she did it for free. Actually, she's a.
Get what you pay for.
Hey, you don't like it? I didn't like it either. Actually. 109 South Wild. It was dark for me. I liked a little bit lighter.
It was just wrong color for there, but whatever. It's a vast improvement.
Oh yeah. This is her house, actually, the designer, and this is after.
Yeah, she likes those.
Yeah, she likes the strong colors, yeah. And she does it for free. Anybody who in that area wanted her advice, she helped.
Yeah.
33 South Wild Olive. All the grass area. We did everything like, Reed had asked for, all the plants and grass and stuff. Mm-hmm. And 129 South Wild Olive, before, again, the whole area grass bad. They planted, they're really taking pride in their homes now. So the whole area is really coming around. 129 South Grandview, remember that one? She designed the colors on this one too.
Uh-oh. Are you warning us?
No, I like it. I mean, this one I liked.
That's nice.
That's
yeah.
festive.
Yeah.
315 South Atlantic. If you see all the grass and stuff, all the up here they had all kinds of advertisement for beer and all that kind of stuff. The building needed to be repainted. The palm trees needed to be taken care of. They removed all of the signs from the upstairs. They painted the entire building. They put in new plants, and big improvement. I mean, it was a nice building to begin with, but it was time to redone again. And that's what.
Very good.
You're staying busy.
I mean, that's just a sample. There's a lot more out there.
Mm-hmm.
And like the other day, I was talking to somebody on Harvey, just around the corner on Harvey, and he's looked at all these houses, and now he decided instead of painting, he's going to redo the entire house. So.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
The fire they had the other night, is that total?
That's where I was just at. The back building, and we're hoping to get Mark Criswell out there and condemn the back building and see what we can do.
Is that the one they thought might be arson?
Yeah.
It is, yeah, where
That's
everyone
what
was.
they're saying.
Okay.
And it's open. Can we board that up, or?
Send me an email tomorrow on that, and
Will
we'll
do.
work on that.
All right, thanks.
What property?
720?
Let's see. I have the pictures if you want to see it.
Hollywood.
It's going to be 213 North Oleander. 213 North Oleander, and the front building is okay. The back building is what burned. Anybody want to see the picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it said 720 or something like that, Hollywood. In the papers.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh, this back building right here.
No, sorry.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought I read it as Grandview, not Hollywood.
All I know is I came out of work and I could smell smoke.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck?
Not good.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. On to Land Development Code rewrite.
Thank you.
Reed, do you guys have any further presentation?
Well, we have what could be a fairly lengthy presentation for you, but I think the request last time was, first of all, to offer to you the Article 12 and look at the powers of the board, and was I think one of the questions is to start getting into that this evening. And that's the first item on the list is to go right to the membership issue and Article 2.3 in the code, and see if there's some suggested changes you want to make.
Sounds good. All right. Board, yes, we addressed this last time briefly with respect to the redevelopment or the code rewrite in Section 2.3 of the Redevelopment Board, and asked you to take a look at it, be prepared to come back and give your proposed comments and requested revisions. Shall we just start and go around, or does anybody have a strong preference to speak up first? Gary?
Can I get a definition on the term review? What constitutes review? Are you looking for a review and recommendation? Or share with me your definition of review here on 2.3.
What are you looking at, Gary?
Review major site plans, review major temporary use permits. What does review mean?
Approval would be needed by this board
Yeah.
for them to move forward.
Well, is that what we mean by review?
No, that's just a, shorthand for the PowerPoint, but what that review means is review, and in the case of a site plan, you have final decision, final authority
Well,
to
that's
decide site plans.
tremendously- That power, to me, is much more important than the power to review. So, what other, I guess we'll have to go through every one of them then, and have you share with
Well-
us.
Might I suggest that we not worry about commenting on the PowerPoint, but actually let's look at the Land Development Code, Section 2.3 in its draft, and see what sections one might like to have revisions made to. Because going by its PowerPoint is I think, going to be counterproductive in that it's not complete, and you have to look at the actual document itself to see where we need to make revisions. And I've got a few thoughts myself. Is anybody prepared to look at 2.3 and make suggested revisions?
I have questions and
Tracy?
comments, yeah.
Okay.
And the first part, actually, if we want to look at, not looking at the PowerPoint, but looking where it starts, redevelopment boards, establishment, powers and duties, under B2, decide applications for development permit, it does say to review and decide.
Yeah.
Okay, so redevelopment conditional use permit, which we currently do. The next one, it says to review and decide the following applications for development permit when they involve land within blah-de-blah-de-blah. It has under that a major site plan, which we do, but there's still a problem, and this is right now between staff and Clarion. This board does not review major temporary use permits. Major temporary use permits are like bike week permits. That's city commission stuff. And I mean, as the planning board member here, I know I've been talking to the planning board staff on that there seems to be a disconnect between what Clarion understands. So that's actually not something that we do, unless they mean something else.
Would you like
Though,
us to
well,
do
no,
that?
I'm asking because actually, under last month, there were some comments from board members about wanting to see the Bike Week and Biketoberfest.
Right.
So that's what I need to, I mean, as the planning board member here, that's what I need to know.
It used to be that way, and then the chamber ended up taking over it, and I guess the Chamber of Commerce makes the presentation with their recommendations directly to the City Commission and pockets half the money of, I guess, from the applications and what have you. I believe that's the way it works. I mean, how much money does the chamber make from making the recommendations to the City Commission, and why? Do you know?
No.
It's a big,
But they make money off of it.
I really don't get involved in the whole special event issue.
But before the chamber did the, it used to go before the Main Street Redevelopment Board, then it got recommendations of the Planning Board and the City Commission.
Gary?
Yeah, I think the point was that we would like to get involved in that if the city commission feels that it's a proper role for us to play. I think there are a million reasons why we could help solve some of the things that have fallen between the lip and the cup in this process. And I think that was, Mr. Chairman, I think you led the charge on this, and many of us concurred with you. And maybe that's why, Reed, it says new in parentheses in the PowerPoint. That would be a new duty. Anyway, I'd like to suggest that we, in the formal motion, if it's appropriate, when it's appropriate, that we bring this request to the City Commission. I mean, does this document have to go to the City Commission for any changes in the document?
Only when we get to the final, we're in Module 2, we have Module 3, and then they'll put it all together. And when we have that final document, the planning that it'll
And
come to
actually,
us.
it won't even go to the planning board then until they have to actually use the final document, look at old things that have been improved and test the document to see if it works.
That was our request. Our request was, I thought, that there had been a lot of coffee talk that had changed policy, but not officially, and that the actual document still read one way, but yet there had been some motion made by someone at some time that altered it and changed it and moved the review of temporary permits away from this board directly to the city commission, of which of course it's their right to do if they want, but was that reflected in an amendment?
That was done when I was on the commission.
Right.
That was taken away from the redevelopment boards because there had not been any special event ordinance, anything.
Right.
It just happened. And so when I was on the commission, we went through actually a couple of years of working with all the boards, the chamber, everybody else, and made the changes in the land development code. You know, the planning board saw it, the redevelopment boards, and that's what made the changes and set it up.
Now?
Where we are now is we have this rewrite, this document rewrite, and in this particular section, somehow this has ended up back in a redevelopment board duty, but it ended up back there somehow because Clarion understands a major temporary use permit different than we currently mean it in our land development code. So this is the time, if you want to make changes or suggest changes, this is the time to suggest those changes.
Well, no, I
But
understand that. I guess.
But it's still,
officially-
officially it's done currently to the land development code.
Okay. All right.
This board, no redevelopment board
And
oversees
Mr.
anything.
Chairman, you want to take these one at a time? I'd like to recommend that this responsibility be put back, be moved back to the Main Street South Atlantic redevelopment.
Actually, it would be all redevelopment boards,
All
because
redevelopment
Midtown
boards.
has it,
Okay.
downtown has,
All redevelopment boards, for a variety of obvious reasons. I don't think we need to go through the challenges and the problems. And it has nothing to do with the partnership between any other agencies like the chamber and the city. Nobody is up to affecting that. I just think we would benefit as a city, everyone would benefit if we were involved in the review.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to all this, can we move back to staff report 4A, since the police chief is out here?
Yes, I was just notified, and I don't have my glasses on, so I was like, who is that?
Well, I think the police chief would wait until we finish this item.
oh my gosh, she'll be here forever.
Here, Gary, to support my young captain here.
Why don't we take a break in our discussion of the very exciting Land Development Code rewrite and invite the captain and the chief, whoever would like to address us. Thank you. Captain.
I'm here to give my quick little ComStat report. Throughout the summer, we were kind of holding on to a 5% lead over on Part 1 crimes, meaning that compared to last year, we were down 5% overall in Part 1 crimes. We had a tough summer. We had a tough summer citywide. We knew we were going to have a tough summer. You know, school is out, kids are out, a lot of people in town, a lot of tourists in town. So we did a lot. We did a lot with the Hotel Motel Association, courtesy cards, a lot of things to try to get that down. But unfortunately, we were stuck at 5%, which is still a good thing. We're down 5% overall. We just came out of this last ComStat period, I think 2 weeks ago, and we've gained some percentage points. We're down 7% overall in the district in Part 1 crimes. Our goal is 10% by the end of the year. I'm pretty confident we're going to make it. So, you know, we got a couple months left. I think that we're going to do it. So that's where we're at as far as crime. Now, I know that one of the issues that always comes up here is noise. For a period of about 3 weeks, within the last 6 weeks, we went out with sound meters every single night of the week, and we measured sound. There were some violations here and there. Main Street Station was one of them. And we had some issues on Seabreeze, of course. But I've since met with all of the Main Street merchants, including some there on Seabreeze. They have all pledged compliance with us. We'll see how that goes. I explained to them, what we were trying to do, and everybody seemed very receptive. Nobody wants to be that business that's singled out. Nobody wants to be fined. Nobody wants to be not included in the master plan for special events. They all understand what's at stake. So, like I said, they've all pledged their compliance with us. I've told them that we will be out, obviously, this weekend. We have 2 people dedicated to nothing but sound enforcement this weekend. And I told them that, you may get a knock on the door saying you're too loud, and if you're told to turn it down, just turn it down. Bite your tongue and deal with it. If we have to issue notice of violations, we will do that. We'll have code enforcement with us. So that's where we're at. I think things have been pretty good since we've gone through our education program with them. So we'll see how it goes this weekend.
I'll just say that education goes a long ways. It really does. Once they got educated about 7-8 years ago, things were really smooth for quite a while and just kept going up, and so we really appreciate those efforts.
Yes.
One quick thought, though, with respect to the weekend is it's not so much the bands. We kind of expect that. One problem is the person with a little PA horn or their own little amplified sound system for hawking their wares and such like that that's not authorized.
Correct.
And if you crack down on those right away and tell them they got to put it away and such, otherwise they kind of feed off themselves at times.
Absolutely.
And so we'd appreciate that.
That specific event has been included in our legal bulletins, every year before special events. We send out all of the laws that pertain to special events, and everybody gets refreshed before they come out. Just a reminder, these are the things we need to be looking for. So they've all gone out to all the officers. They're all well aware of what they have to do. So.
And then I'd heard something in the last week or so about some little rash of car break-ins or something on the beach side. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Okay.
Actually, it was arrest.
It was
Arrest?
It was arrest. We arrested a guy who went for 75, broke into 75 cars.
okay.
Right.
That's a good
Yeah.
to hear. And about a month or so ago, you guys arrested someone in our backyard that was actually
Yes.
in the boat next door. And
Actually,
apparently
we made 2 arrests. One was for a car break on your neighbor's house.
Right.
And then one was for trying to steal the boat on the other neighbor's house.
Good.
On either side of you. So,
And he was sleeping in my
You're
hammock.
next.
right.
And 300 North Atlantic, obviously I see a whole lot.
Is that Ocean Walk 300?
Ocean Walk, Wyndham.
I thought so.
We have obviously huge spike in crime there. We have been in constant contact either by email, phone, and we've actually had several meetings with corporate people. There are definitely a lot of issues on those properties, but everything seems to be working. There were some structural issues with doors. They've all been fixed. Actually, I take that back. By tomorrow afternoon, every single door will be fixed on both towers, so that will eliminate the issues that we were having there. We offered our suggestions to both towers as far as improving security. They have agreed to do everything. In fact, the Hilton has even taken notice of what we're doing there. We've met with them, and they're beefing up some things on their end as well. So there was a lot of obstacles at both properties. The problem that you have at both of these properties is you have 3 different management companies and 2 different security companies, all of them doing their own thing. Nobody was on the same sheet of music. We finally brought them all together. We've explained to them, you have a problem, this is our solution, we're willing to work with you, and everybody's together now, and they are fixing everything there as quickly as they possibly can. So since we first met with them about a month ago, we've only had 2 incidents, which is a far cry from what we were dealing with over this summer. We were averaging, sometimes 2 a day there throughout the summer. So it was busy, but things are definitely improving there at those properties.
Very good. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple. I didn't realize we were going to talk about noise tonight, and I didn't bring your little packet that you gave us. But just one of the other things in terms of education, you had or Mr. Webster had in the back and forth emails that I guess there were some officers that, because Main Street Station supposedly had some permit from the city, or the city commission had approved it, figured that they don't do anything. They all do understand.
That's been fixed. Right?
Okay, great.
fixed.
Thank you.
Because
Been addressed.
I was out on my bike that night, and I was on Beach Street and heard.
Okay.
I was yelling over the PA, and I called the lieutenant and said, if I got to come over, we're going to have an issue. Apparently, the lieutenant didn't take that.
Okay. Okay, because permits do have rules as well. But then I had just a couple of questions on the ComStat that we had here. Between 2009 and 2010, January or whatever, comparing it to the same periods, sexual battery is up 70%.
But if you,
How many?
should be like 2 incidents?
No, from 10 incidents to 17 incidents.
Well,
between-
that's early on. If you look at us now, I think it's a difference of 2
Okay, that's what I was
overall.
going to ask, the
Yes.
difference between those.
So it's-
And then, okay, and then I did just have something that I noticed that, I mean, well done. Firearm incidences in 2009, 72, and we're down to 5.
Yes.
That's amazing. I don't know what you're doing, but that's great that our streets are that much safer.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Yeah.
There's 2 categories there that we have increases on, and it's not unique to our district. It's a citywide
Well,
problem.
burglaries is always,
It's
yeah.
well, burglaries actually we're down in property crimes. The
Yeah.
2 increases that we have are sexual batteries, which is an increase of 2 events if you look at the most recent
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
ComStat.
that I saw.
And assaults and batteries, but that's a citywide thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I say on the last ComStat,
I
like
can tell you, we follow the national trend. 75% of our sexual batteries are known doers, they're acquaintances.
Okay.
The other 25% are the unknowns.
Mhm.
And the last unknown rape, actually we had 2 unknown rapes in the city in the last 2 years. One was the woman who's a DSC student who woke up on Winchester Avenue, saw a shadowy figure in her kitchen, smacked her across the face with a metal pipe, knocked her unconscious, sexually assaulted her. Fortunately for us, he left so much DNA all over the place that we were able to make an arrest within 2
Good.
weeks. The second one just occurred, and I don't understand how white people do this. They go to the Coliseum. She's there with her friends and family. She starts talking to these strange guys. They tell her, come on, we're going to go to another place. And she gets in trouble with them.
In the car,
And ends
yeah.
up sexually assaulted and thrown out of the
Yeah.
car out on 92. So that's one that we just got some information this week of the tag number, the car she was in, so we're following that.
Okay.
But a vast majority of our sexual assaults are, I know, I met this guy, here's a picture of him, I got his cell phone, thank God for that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those were my only 2.
Anyone else?
comments on that.
Thank you, Captain.
thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Oh, yes, okay.
We really,
We have a new code guy.
Okay, great.
And he's all fired up to meet you and do what you do.
I'll do it.
we appreciate the efforts.
Gary,
Thank you,
for trying to
guys.
Bring some class to this board and dressing nice tonight. Fellas, you guys gotta dress up a little bit. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, back to our excitement of the redevelopment board. All right.
The question is, how would you like us
I would-
to move forward?
I would like to kind of take the approach we did last week. Let's have discussion about a topic, okay? I think we have the issue of, does major temporary use permit approval include Bike Week, Biketoberfest, and I believe any event in which we're having a closure of our streets for an activity.
Yes, I would agree with you.
And so I think that's my thought on that anyways. And so that's one issue. Anybody have any other thoughts with respect to whether or not this board should be involved in the review and approval process of such a permit application?
Well, just,
special event?
since we're talking about this one, I'm sorry.
But-
I'm fighting a cold, sorry.
Is your
I can't hear you.
speaker on?
Now, hold
I
up
think it
your
is.
special, we
The light's
got a
on.
statement on how to use the microphone now. The art of broadcasting.
As an appointed board, unless the commission directs us to weigh in on these issues, I'm not sure that I would support us requesting that. I know at the last city commission meeting, there was extensive discussion of the Bike Week arrangement with the chamber and the governing documents they had related to it. But the chamber has been the agent for Bike Week, and the CVB, I believe, is the agent for Biketoberfest. So unless the commission is directing us to take over, I'm reluctant to reach for that power unless they want us to.
Okay, thank you.
I think the suggestion was that we wouldn't affect the relationship between the chamber and the city at all. That's not, and nobody wants to take over the event. I think the outside agencies continue to be very important with us. The question is whether or not the actual request, the permit, should come to this board for review first.
And yeah, and I think it's not final review. I think it's a step in the process, because I think we can have some direct input if we have a chance to review the proposed master plan before it goes to the city commission, is my thought process.
Yeah, my only thought process, if we're going to go through the step, which is essentially the same step that the chamber is doing, why not bypass the chamber and let the city make the money and not share the revenues? That I know that's going to be a controversial issue, but it's a controversial issue. The city needs to decide whether or not we want to, because right now the chamber is sharing in on the, I guess, the applications and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't think that's something we can necessarily get involved in here. All we can do is get an application and review it, give our comments on it, and let them move on to the next step. However, the city desires to get their application process initiated. I think there's subject to a few exceptions, a consensus of an idea that we want to have some say with respect to what that plan is or what that event is based upon what the application is.
And actually, I would say about the application process, we don't have the staff to deal with the application process. The city, I mean,
Nobody's asking.
right. No, that's what Dino was just saying. Yeah,
that's what I was finding.
there's not enough money for the city to hire on at the cost of employees to go through taking all of that information, following it up, figuring out who goes where on the master plan. That is a huge part of what the chamber does. That is everything that the chamber does. And having been involved in those task force meetings, which you have been, I believe, as well, don't touch that.
That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
All right, so then they bring the master, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's what Dino just said, bypass the chance. It's like, no, do not bypass.
Okay.
That's a huge amount of work. Sorry, Timmy.
Tim?
I believe the same thing. Just like when sometimes we have new developments that come our way and we're a sounding board, we give our suggestions to go out there, and by no means do we need to pull somebody out of the loop, be it the chamber or anybody else, because there was discussion that it's not, there's really no written agreement that it has to be the chamber every year. There needs to be a promoter or a market or somebody to go through to make sure that that event takes place and it's feasible, and there's so many moving parts of it. So I don't think, at least that's not my idea, that it should come here and would be the final say on it. But any major thing that happens in this area, and such where the streets are closed, and we're going to use our resources, be it the police force or whatever, for these type of events, be it that the New Year's stuff, things like that. I think it should come before us, at least for a sounding board, so we don't have the same issues like we had with the whole E-zone thing, where it just bypassed us, where we are the appointed board for the Main Street area, not just Main Street.
Exactly.
So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, because I'm looking back at section, because it says major temporary use permit, section 3.403, and you look back on page 3-66, and that section is festival/special event permit procedure.
Yeah. What?
Okay. And so, it's got a pre-application conference, a neighborhood meeting, an application submittal and acceptance, staff review and action, decision-making body, review and decision by the city commission. So I'm kind of confused how they've got a flow chart showing that process when they're saying that this board was supposed to be involved in the...
That was my point.
No, they're saying this board, this was a mistake Clarion made, but now the mistake is out there. It was a mistake they made in understanding our process, so it ended up in here.
So
So
this-
that's why we even have this
The
to
Lord
look at.
works in mysterious
Yes,
ways.
he does. That's what I'm saying. It
So
didn't.
first question, Reed, is what we have before us under 2.3 in the book, is this exactly as it's written now, or is this as Clarion put it together as its draft?
Yes, this is the draft.
Okay, all right, so it's not, all right.
Thank you. It's the
So we
draft.
need to be looking and commenting on this draft.
Yes.
And saying what we like or don't like with respect to it. So in essence, we're saying
Keep it in now is what I'm
keep it in
hearing.
Yeah.
and make sure
Except
that
for Teresa.
includes specifically Bike Week, Biketoberfest, any kind of special event where they're going to be doing street closures.
All support Clarion, and I
That's
am making
understood.
notes of that.
That's understood. All right.
Well, do you want to take a, I mean, all right, now, do you want to take a vote on that?
Why don't we do that so we don't have a question with
Right.
respect to the minutes next time?
Right, exactly.
So, do we have any motion with respect to section 2.3B2B to I?
I'll move that we support the Clarion recommendation in the rewrite.
And that includes the concept that
The chamber
Including-
reviews it and brings it forward.
Bike Week, Biketoberfest, any other special events in which we have street closures and things of that
Are
nature.
included.
All right. Any discussion on that?
Um,
Oh, do we have a second? Second?
Yeah.
And then discussion?
Okay, presently, like I said, those two agencies are the agents. If we have other events, I guess, would we need another agent to,
That would be the city's application process and how they get the process started.
okay.
And, you know, they have applications for things on Main Street where they close the street off and such, and I don't think it goes through the chamber and such, does it?
No,
Yeah.
we
So-
go through the,
So that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I mean, so like the, was it the shrimp
Seafood
festival or the
festival.
seafood festival? There's the promoter or marketer, whoever it is that the Main Street group hires to promote that event. That would be the agent for that event, but it's still, then it would be my assumption it would come through us and we could give our opinion or whatever, and we're not the final say-all on it, but then our recommendation could go forward to the next body that would, be at the
okay. It's just that, like, right now, the Biketoberfest, the application deadline is over 5 months prior to the event. So this will prolong the entire process.
But it might actually streamline it if we can go through and put out some of the fires before it gets to the city commission. So then we don't have the stuff. I mean, because I've been at city commission. I see what goes on with why is certain applications put in written that aren't drafted drawn the way they're supposed to be, or the applications aren't filled out properly. Maybe we could weed out some of the stuff and maybe make their meeting a little bit easier.
I think, Teresa, the suggestion is to make it easier and better and work better, not slow it down and make it not work. Because right now, it's not a very nifty process from the outside. Now, you're on the inside, and you're a player in it, and it might seem to work pretty well. But the perceptions, I think we have to be sensitive to the perceptions the commission is on how it handles these select special events. And I think this would help. I think Clarion hit it right on, however they got there. I think they hit the ball out of the park on just a review. The E-zone raises that question dramatically. I support Timmy's comments. I mean, I think we'd be better off. It would be smoother, simpler, and we get where we need to go quicker with this layer of review.
And so would it go from this board to the city commission?
I would presume so. I don't think they'd have us be the final decision maker. But it's, just like anything else going through the process.
I wasn't thinking we'd be the final.
Yeah.
My question, I guess, really, would it go to the planning
You're asking
board?
whether it goes from here to the planning board to the city commission. No, it would go from here to the city commission.
Okay. Again, I hold my position.
Okay, very good.
I'll move the question unless there's any other discussion.
All in favor of the motion? Signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 2 opposed and 6 in favor. Motion carries. All right. Any other comments with respect to Section 2.3? Where there was some discussion last week with respect to membership, term limits, things of that nature. And Jason's here. Did you have anything you wanted to chime in on?
On membership and dues, we're still. I think the direction you gave us the last month was to look what's being done in other communities, and we're still researching that. Once we have that information, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
But we've noted the issue, and so we'll address that as we go forward with Clarion.
Gary, did you have any?
Well, I think I would defer to Clarion, who does a lot of this, and my brief discussions with principals at Clarion suggested that they needed to understand why these requirements were so funky and so unusual and so atypical, and whether or not there was a need today to keep this crazy quilt of eligibility or not. And I defer to their recommendation. I think cities that have gone through this process in the last 5 years have cleaned up these little pocket eligibility issues and made it much more standard and much more sensible. And I think our commission would look very favorably on a much simpler, much easier to understand eligibility process. So I would be happy to see what other cities who've gone through this process have come up with, and certainly support Clarion's advice in this area. I don't think there's any reason for us to keep this crazy quilt of eligibilities any longer. Does anyone here?
I think they're a bit archaic, and it's difficult to find qualified people who want to serve perhaps within the immediate area. And I think the city commission is informed enough to appoint people who have an interest in that area. Perhaps it's a blend of people who are actual residents within the area or close surrounds, and then some business people too, so we don't get it too heavily skewed just on the resident versus the business side.
Mr. Chairman, I would defer to the staff here to work with Clarion to come up with I think you sense the commission's inability to find people given this sort of 19th century approach, and I think there is a best practice in the field, of how to do this. I would be very interested if, in fact, Jason, you haven't had time to look at other cities. Why don't we just go to Clarion, who's they're our expert, and see what they would recommend?
They could definitely give us experience of what they've seen in other areas. I was just talking in regards to, I think you wanted us to kind of canvas what other, specifically in Florida with the redevelopment what's done.
I made the suggestion, and if I had probably thought a little longer on it, I would have suggested go to Clarion first. Why not go to the master, and they can tell us what other cities
and I
have
think
done.
what we, I would say I think you have a good point. What's brought up is you just want you want a balance of stakeholders when it comes to an advisory board.
Yeah, and the eligibility, it really falls on the patronage of the city commission. They're the ones who are making these appointments. And they do their homework. We rely on their judgment. Right now, we are hamstringing the city commission from appointing people they would like to appoint to these boards because of some of the eligibility problems.
Does any board member have a concern with respect to what Gary's proposing and the eligibility? And let's defer to Clarion and see what they come back with, so we can take a look at it.
Well, the only one comment I have, I was wondering, and if they can look at why the differences between the board and why is this board singled out with the only board as far as having term limits, and why did the other boards not have term limits?
No, all of the redevelopment boards have term limits.
And I have a comment on the term limits too.
Yeah.
So can we, just as a consensus, direct staff to get with Clarion and see what Clarion would recommend,
including term limits.
Including term limits. And my suggestion on term limits is that they at least try to, it's limited to 2 terms now of 2 years each. That's 4 years. I think that's too short. I think it should be at least 3, perhaps 4. If our mayor, what's the term limit on the mayor now?
We don't have term limits.
No, we don't.
We don't?
Only the redevelopment boards have term limits in the entire city.
Okay.
And that just happened under a previous commission when they looked at redoing boards. So these are the only boards that have term
And
limits
I
in
think
the entire
Clarion
city.
should give comments with respect to term limits also.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Can I suggest that Clarion write all their comments down and all the board members have section this point A2, and this is what they suggest, and that way when we go back to looking at voting on it, we could actually strike out comments, suggestions that we don't like, and then, approve
Well,
it.
it'll come back to us as a,
As a
either
draft.
as a draft.
Okay, that's
We can
fine.
deal with that then.
Okay. Now, but I do think something that's important, and we'll get over there, something that is important, no matter whose suggestion from what, the commission and both residents and business owners in the city have been very clear that they do want to keep a majority of board members shall be residents. We had the problem before, a lot of non-residents making decisions for what was happening. And residents doesn't mean non-business owners. I mean people who live in the city, whether it's,
That's another issue.
right. But that's under your eligibility that you're talking about. And so it's very important to make sure that that's not something that we're looking at changing, no matter what happens with the other criteria, that it still needs to be people who live here. And then I personally think we should go back to no term limits at all. I don't see the need in a community this size to hamstring any board, which is what I think term limits do. That's just my personal opinion. I would just take them back out. I know the commission just put them back in, but we have it here and we're being asked to comment as a board. So I
As
would
you said,
take,
that was the previous commission,
it was the previous
and
commission.
not this commission, which there's been some.
Right, because it does hamstring them.
If you look at the
Hard.
situation, Tracy, when that happened, we had a commission that had not appointed the members of the boards, and they were looking for a politically correct way out without inviting people off the boards by not reappointing
Well,
them.
the commission just didn't have the backbone to do what
Well, I'm
other
trying
commissions
to-
had done before them.
I'm trying to say
members-
that in a little different way. And,
No, I just
and,
go for it. They need
you know,
the commission just shirked their duty.
Yeah.
And they did it this way, and they hamstrung future commissions when all they have to
Well,
do.
the bottom line is, and I think the city commission has asked themselves is it working?
It's
And the
not.
answer is no,
No.
it is currently not working. So let's recommend tweaking it or changing it, and it's always subject to change by commissions in the future. But right now, let's see if we can make it work better.
All right, so we'll talk with Clarion about that too, correct, Jason? Yes. All right. Any other comments with respect to 2.3?
One quick one.
Go ahead.
I would like to support Mrs. Remark's suggestion that the residency, that we reaffirm the commission's decision on the majority resident.
I agree. I think you
issue.
should have, you either should be living within the exact area or the near surrounds or have substantial
Right,
involvement with respect
right.
to business. And I also think there needs to be a substantial amount of actual residents.
Yes, that's what I, yeah.
Okay, on the board.
Well, right now, there's the rule is a majority of the board has to be residents of the city. Whether they own businesses or not isn't the issue. They have to be residents of the city. The other can be residents of other cities if they own businesses here. There's a variety of other eligibility. But right now, it's my understanding that the current rule is a majority of the boards must have legal residence within the city, not own a business, not pay taxes, but be legal residents of the city. Is that correct, Mr. Berger?
That's how I understand
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
I comment on that. That's one part of this.
Dave?
That's okay.
No.
You're not a
right.
majority.
No, that's
Dave, go ahead.
That's one part of this I don't agree with, is that, especially on this board right now, you're barely making that minimum as far as resident versus business owners. And next month, it'll be, I'm not sure where Truman lives, but without Truman, you're going to be a 4-4 split as far as residents and non-residents.
He
on this
lives in
board.
the city.
Okay, but I'm saying it's the same problem that the police chief is having, or has had with his resident. I'm gonna not be a resident of Daytona Beach for the first time come next month, but I still have businesses in 3 redevelopment areas in Daytona Beach, and I don't agree with the fact that just because you don't live here, you're not making a sound decision for that particular area.
I don't think anybody has said that. It's the majority. We had a downtown redevelopment
I know, but
board where not one member lived in our city.
You were talking about hamstringing the city commission, not be able to find people. The reason I'm here right now is because the city couldn't find any residents in the South Atlantic Avenue to take my spot.
Well, we would like to simplify that by eliminating the requirement that there be a resident in a part of the city where there are no residences, like South Atlantic.
Well, there are
And that's
residents
our
in South
point. That's
Atlantic.
why we're going to Clarion.
But you have the same problem in the Main Street area as you do in the downtown area. You have people that live here, but they don't really, they could, and Gary, because I've lived here all my life, you got people living in the Main Street area that could give a rat's behind about what goes on in the Main Street
It's
area.
resident of the city, not of the Main Street area.
All I'm saying is that's part of the thing I don't agree with. It shouldn't be a majority residence on these boards.
Of the
Especially if
city.
they have 4 businesses within the 3 redevelopment areas.
Well, if you remember the discussion that the commission had during this issue, it took them a year to resolve it, and the final resolution was, let's give it a try and see whether or not the majority residency requirement hasn't hamstrung the commission. It's finding people who live, it's the subsets of eligibility that have caused the problems, not living in the city. Look at our board. I mean, in the reappointment process here, we didn't have any problem on the citywide resident eligibility, but some of these other little crazy quilt, these 19th century requirements can cause a problem. And I think Reed, maybe we could ask the staff, from your perspective, your guys are professionals in this, is there any reason today for us to continue with these discrete degrees of eligibility?
No, and I was just going to mention the South Atlantic. I think we need to just drop that. I mean, that Main Street versus South Atlantic, you have to have a board members from each. That is really handicapped.
Kooky.
Yeah.
So, I agree. There's just the fewer limitations, the better. The whole point is to try to get people involved that do care, that are passionate about redevelopment of these areas, and then we can all get something done.
Okay. Very good. All right, any further comments on 2.3? Very good. Move on to redevelopment projects update. Reed, Jason?
Are we going?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Were we? We got more?
You're not going to get it.
I tried.
No, you may not do this all tonight.
I don't think we have to go back over the review procedures, 'cause I think you already talked about the issues. We've noted the issue with the concerns about the festivals. You already dealt with that under the board duties. Now what I would jump to is the zoning districts. What I'd like to do, I'll try to make it as painless as possible, is to go through the zoning districts. Now, I think, as I discussed, gave you a brief overview last month. In terms of the zoning districts, there are currently 8 zoning districts in the Main Street redevelopment area. Essentially, Clarion's been directed to carry those through to the new zoning code, and then we are adding 3 new ones to deal with the areas within Main Street that do not currently have specific zoning. The zoning district specific to the Main Street area. So what I'll do, I just want to kind of go through just kind of highlights on these different zoning districts, kind of get your feedback, point out some things that we as staff have already seen, get your feedback, and see if you concur with our comments.
As you're going through these zoning districts, can you explain like
where they are
between? Yeah, because
yes, I
had mentioned at the last meeting if you could provide us a redevelopment map, but I don't think you did that.
Did we provide the maps? I guess we. Oh, okay, sorry. But I have them in the presentation, so I'll generally describe where they are.
Okay.
But we'll get you that map.
I'm going to bring it up again next meeting.
Let's see. So the zoning districts are on the development standards for the zoning districts start for Main Street in what's page 4-60. Article 4 is the essentially the development standards for each zoning district, and then Article 5 is what tells you what uses are permitted or what's a conditional use, and that chart starts on. So if you have your book with you, you might want to be flipping between those two pages, between 4-60, and then the use matrix starts for redevelopment areas on 5-14. So I don't know if you have that tabulated. So the first zoning district is the RDB1 zoning district. It's essentially the hotel mixed use. It is located essentially along, it's on the east side of A1A. It's the oceanfront properties. A lot of this is already developed. This is the Hilton, the Ocean Walk project, and then some of the other larger hotels. So it's basically designed to encourage the development of large-scale hotel projects. And in terms of the uses, it allows, when it comes to multifamily, residential allows multifamily, and then visitor accommodation, it has hotels in it. And then institutional, there are some, and the other thing just to keep in mind, they are carrying through all the zoning district, or all the uses in each, they're supposed to be carrying through what's allowed currently in RDB1. In some cases, in the development of the new code, Clarion is adding some new uses, like specific uses. Like, for instance, in our current code, our retail use is very broad. When you look at the code, the draft code, they're breaking it down into some more specific uses. So what we have to do is carefully translate that to how they're making that change in the code in terms of what uses to be allowed in these zoning districts.
Do you think helicopter landing is going to raise an issue with residential neighborhoods that abut the E-zone and abut Main Street? I mean, we tried to have a helicopter during Embry-Riddle's air show, and it was hell to pay, if you remember, the helicopters going up and down the beach. I mean,
again, that's just something, if you don't feel that's something that's compatible, it doesn't necessarily have to be in there.
I don't think that's compatible with a large number of residents who live adjacent to this area, and it stands out to me. Out of everything else, it just sort of looms out as something that hasn't really been thought through.
I'm going to agree with Gary, because a few years ago they were doing the helicopters during Bike Week, and they were consistently flying 100 feet above treetops in a pattern, and there were actually 2 helicopters running at one point, and they were running 15 minutes flight. So average every 7.5 minutes, we had helicopters 100 feet over our house, and you couldn't even hear yourself talk. And they were supposed to be flying at 500 feet according to the FAA, and the only way to complain about it was to try and deal with the FAA. And of course, they're not open on weekends and everything, and so it was a real nightmare.
I can't imagine Clary.
Wait, but this
Could I interrupt
this
something?
is for a helicopter landing on top of a hotel district. So
Well, how is it going to get there?
what's that?
How is it going to get there? Is it going to just come vertically out of the firmament? It's going to have to fly over the island.
There are some important visitors that may have to have a special landing on top of a hotel, use the elevator to get to their room, that can't go through the...
Okay, before you guys go on, this is what we currently have, right? Okay.
No, helicopter landing is a new...
Okay, that's new, because that's why on some they put a question mark, add with a question mark, and on others they just have it in. So that's what
you're looking in the present. Are you looking in the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
No, that's me, because I'm just going through, looking what they're doing, and that's some of the stuff I'm going to bring up.
Helicopter I think it's incompatible. Just from one.
Right now, they have it as a conditional use in the draft.
Current
code.
land development code, because we've had helicopters. Because the one thing to be really clear on, whatever is currently allowed in the land development code is not being taken out, because then you get into eminent
We
domain.
don't
You
have helicopter landing pads in the current land development.
You have
code.
helicopter use.
Well,
That's why I'm asking what is current.
What about the, what about the parking garage? Isn't that part of the intermodal thing there?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Wasn't
is
there-
currently
there's a pad on
allowed
top
is
of it.
not going to be removed, just so you understand that. Because it's a whole legal problem if you're taking away property rights.
think
So I
that's-
just wanted to be clear what was in there currently, because I know we've had helicopters.
Thank you.
Well, then
Yeah,
let's
we
ask
do.
the question. Let's ask the question.
Yeah,
about
we can
helicopter,
verify
that's
just to
all.
double. There are some things in what Clarion's done. They sometimes have not quite put things in the right place. So,
Okay.
so I guess what I'm hearing, if it's already allowed, we'll keep it. And I don't think it's that uncommon, especially. I understand the issue with transition with the or compatibility with the residences nearby, but here you're talking about particular uses just along the ocean, and I think I don't know who was saying it, but I mean it's feasible that somebody might build a hotel and put a landing, pad on top of the hotels.
Clarion is thinking along those lines that there would be a helicopter service from our airport directly to a hotel on a regular basis when.
I don't know if they're
we have the-
exactly thinking. They're just carrying like what Tracy's saying. They're just they're carrying forward what's in the existing code.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
if it's existing, legal staff I know has already told planning, you're not taking out things that are already allowed,
Well,
because that becomes a problem.
uses and landing pads are different.
This
to me,
doesn't
are
say
different.
landing pad.
I don't see,
Helicopter landing.
Landing, it's conditional, you usually have them during special events. This doesn't necessarily mean on a hotel roof, it just means somewhere in that zoning area. That's
Jason-
all I'm saying. If it's allowed already, it's not going to come
Right.
out. So
We'll
they'll just have to
We'll have to check into that. It's not in the use chart, but there's a possibility it's
Yes,
somewhere
it
else.
is. They come and land on the pier, and they, yes.
but I need to clarify something here.
It's wild.
It shows in here, Jason, RDB 1, it shows that this is what Clarion is saying. It's special use or a public use permit.
Conditional
Where
use.
you at? And those are, I'm on page 5-17, right? Helicopter landing facility. And if I'm reading this right, correct me, it's giving us information here that says it's special use.
Yeah, it's a special use or a
That-
semi-public use.
So that special use,
Has to be approved by city commission.
it
And it's
can,
a current special use. I'm telling you guys.
Yeah.
This is a current special
Right.
use in our code.
not a
So
conditional.
this whole conversation is moot.
Although it's been denied by the commission repeatedly over the last 5 years.
Yeah, 'cause
Right.
they can deny special use.
But they can deny them, but they
Okay.
still can't take it
All right.
out, is what has
Okay,
happened.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. This is going to go to Tracy because she was on the commission when I made the phone call to her. When you were there, we had helicopter running a tourist business up and down. Supposedly they were supposed to go south along the shoreline and then back to the pier, east and then back to the pier. Well, they were going south along the shoreline and then coming back over the residential area. So are what you're saying now, that is still allowed? It won't be taken out?
Under a special use permit. Now, if they violate their permit, but what I am saying is the fact that you can still have helicopter use.
Right.
Helicopter land. However, the special permit is set up in the land development code, that's still allowed. Not to come over the resident, I mean, obviously it was a problem there, but this is still allowed as a special use or
They'll
a
have to
semi-public
provide
use.
a map with
Right.
the permit to show
And
where
they're
the-
supposed to follow that permit, just like Main Street Station, for instance, is supposed to follow the
noise.
rules on their permit
Okay,
for
but
noise.
Can you, I guess my question is you, because you've been there in planning board and in the city commission, can you have a special, where they want to, bring somebody in from the airport and bring them to the Hilton, say, but can we limit to no helicopter rides up and down the coast? Like, what happens is on a Friday, they're going to start coming over the residential area. You can't get hold of anybody from Friday to Sunday.
Correct.
So all weekend, which would happen at our house, all weekend they were flying, I could hit them with a stone almost. Going
You
over
could
our
make a
homes.
recommendation in this, that in the special use, or in the current process, which allows the helicopter, that what they look at doing is getting flight plans or whatever, and that there's a way then to deal with that if they violate it. But you just can't take it out, is all you can't do. You can make recommendations on how it should be done, but
dictate
you
how it's
can't
operated.
remove the use.
Yeah, you can dictate how it's operated. And
Yes.
it shouldn't matter anyway. You're not going to be living in the city of Daytona anymore.
Some
Well, yes, it should
communities
matter.
have taken
But see, I
out-
still care about the residents
Tracy,
they
some
don't.
communities have eliminated the use.
Some communities have possibly, no reflection on Carrie, have a different city attorney. Our city attorney has taken the legal position that taking out uses is going to put us in the taking away rights. And that puts us under the Burt Fair, Burt Reams, whatever.
Burt Harris.
Burt Harris, thank you. I knew that was the last name somewhere. Burt Harris. It will make us fall under the Burt
There has
Harris.
to be a loss. Currently, there is no law. I mean, how do you prove a loss when there are no existing helicopter rides? Your point is absolutely accurate. If you're denying an active business, it's the use of its.
It's what legal has said, not what I have said.
Okay.
And, I
All right.
I think we can express strong reservation with respect to the operation of any helicopter tourism operations landing anywhere or flying over.
Not to impact residential neighborhoods.
Right.
Flight patterns, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
And so we have a strong reservation or objection with respect to that. And next point.
Okay.
I think we understand, so we'll look into it. I think under telecommunications, you see that's in for an ad. I think that should probably be added back into the zoning district. Right now, they are allowed under the current provisions to put telecommunication towers. Especially, I don't think it'll have the impact, especially on the taller or the larger buildings on the ocean front. In terms of looking at the commercial uses, you have a lot of business uses that are conditional existing. Again, I believe when you look into our existing code, they're conditional as they're part of mixed-use projects. Again, this is all about having hotels, but you want to be able to allow certain services within on the ground level of the hotel. The one thing we might want to add in, you'll see in the list, is parcel services. And my reading of the definition is it would be like a UPS or a Kinko's or something, so we might want to just add that in as a potential that hotel might want to have some sort of, especially if you're having a convention hotel, many of them have adjacent Kinko business services when they're having those conventions.
When you say that, though, like UPS, are you talking about
Their
a
store.
garage,
The store.
a facility?
No,
on-
no, not the distribution center.
A satellite store?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it falls under commercial use, not industrial. I think
Okay.
is where the distribution center of
Okay.
UPS. But again, one of the things when I was going through this presentation, and I won't get into too much detail, but I do know because we were starting to look at this at the downtown board. There's some tightening on the definitions of the uses that need to be done. I don't know if that came up in the planning board, those special committees. We're seeing some conflicting, definitions of uses. But again, so just so you know, when I say parcel services, I'm thinking the
why I'm making
store.
notes.
Yeah, the store, and we'll just make sure that definition relates to that.
And by the way, I stand corrected. Under every RDB1, RDB2, you have a little map, and it does
Right.
show a highlighted portion.
Yes.
That
I
guy
highlighted it in red in the
I
PowerPoint.
appreciate that. So you kind of did what I wanted to do.
It's kind of.
Yeah.
It's hard to print out a good map, though.
No, but at least I'm able to visualize
Right.
where I'm talking about. And internet cafes, I assume that
They're
are
under a
part-
moratorium.
Yeah, because that's my concern. That's why I have my
Right.
for the internet cafes, because we don't want to get into the problem with.
I think they're interlisted. That issue's already come up. It's going to be addressed. I think when you look at their definition, it kind of sounds, it's
no
it's
I'm
not.
sure it sounds very vanilla, but
But we have another concern that's
Right,
going on right now,
gambling.
and we'll be dealing with that definition.
Right. Well, or just leave it as part of the business services where, like the Kinko's or what have you, have
Internet station, yeah, that's one way to do it, yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't know if you know the problems that like Seminole and Orange County are having with the internet cafes that turn into more of a gambling venue because of the internet, because of online gambling,
Right.
and then
There's
the
nothing
crime
you can
problem
do
that
about
gets
it.
associated with that.
right.
So, I mean, almost everywhere you go has Wi-Fi service, stuff like that.
Right.
So, I don't see internet cafes
As a need now.
as a need.
I
It's
agree.
possible.
Since everybody's walking around.
And I'll tell you one thing, when you look at that use matrix, they're pulling some of this, not only are they pulling what we have existing in our code, but also what they've done in other cities and different trends over probably the last 10, 15 years. And at one point, there probably was a trend to have internet cafes, but you're right, in my opinion. Well, things happen in Florida. So.
What's the difference between a restaurant and specialty eating?
Special eating, when you look at the definition, is your ice cream shops, it's your coffee shops, so we want to add those in. I believe they're leaving those out, and they need to be added in.
Okay, yeah, they're critical.
Yes. So a lot of those smaller, if you look at the not your full-scale restaurants, but your coffee shops, I'm trying to think, yogurt shops, ice cream shops would fall under that, so we want to add that back in. Because I think in some of these uses they're missing.
that's donuts also.
Yeah, donut shops, yes.
Cupcake stores?
Yeah, anything. In terms of retail uses, I would, again, these are conditional uses as they relate to larger mixed-use projects in the zoning district. That's how it currently is in the code. We might want to think about adding back in banks. Never know if, again, I don't know if we have a full-scale bank, but I could see a hotel that might have a small financial, and if you look at the definition of banks or financial services, it's not just your traditional bank, it could be a small financial services, and if you got international, something like that.
What about ATMs? Are they?
I think there'd be like an accessory use in another section, but I could see a potential of a hotel having a small, I don't know if it would be a full-scale bank like you see downtown, but something in the hotel, foreign exchange that, we just don't want to trap that.
You're talking about those then in the hotel use. You're not
Conditional,
talking about,
separate, right.
Okay.
All these conditional uses are as they relate to a large-scale project, is how
Okay.
it word
That- I
reads
just
right now in
wanted to make-
RDB1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I do think that's important.
Why not? Let's add it.
So that's really the only comments I have on RDB1, unless there's anything else you see in the use charts that you feel it needs to be changed in what they're doing or missing. I'll go on to RDB2. I'm sorry, one other thing on the RDB1. In terms of the development standards on page 4-60, they have they don't have a maximum floor area ratio, so we'll need to get them to change that, at least have it correspond with the underlying land use, which I believe in that area would be high-intensity mixed use. I know we had this whole discussion about floor area ratios, but that would be a floor area ratio of 10 with that corresponding land use.
With respect to RDB1, what about spas, massage, things of that nature? I know there had been a discussion about that. I don't see it in there, and
yeah, that's a good point. Again, and probably you want as a conditional use as related to a hotel, not.
Yeah, but yeah, you definitely, I think, need to have spa and massage and.
Well, it says personal services, and that probably covers it, I would think.
I know currently in our code that's how it's used, but
We need to look at the
you look-
definitions.
yeah,
and make
look
sure
at
we've
definition.
got,
The Plaza's spa facilities were personal services.
Yeah, but RDB1 has to be closed.
No,
Let me,
it's conditional use in RDB1.
Yeah, but it's the plaza.
let me just look at something real.
The plaza?
That's how they
No, it's
got it.
not, but that's how they got it.
That's how they got it.
For,
The massage is one of those things I put that tie. Have you ever seen them over there? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, right now, personal service establishment, the definition, I believe they're carrying forward our current definition, which calls needs of personal nature, examples, hair salons, training salons, nail care. and that's a conditional use, is what they're saying.
Okay.
And that would include a spa and massage?
We can,
Maybe
let me
look
make
at
a
definition.
note that the definition needs to be,
Yeah, I think fleshed
It
out a
should
little
note
bit.
that, it should cite it.
Yeah.
Probably as an example. It's currently, that's how they include it.
okay, so other than that, I'll go on to,
Well, one quick question, and how it would be covered in here, whatever. The kiosk kind of thing that you see in other tourism areas. We got some here for, timeshares. But you go to the Keys or Hawaii or whatever, and you see these places where you can go to one spot and they can refer you to golfing, kayaking, all this kind of thing. Is that covered within here?
I think that was the
Something that would be
solicitation booth, and we kind of talked about that the last meeting, and that would carry forward, and that should be under accessory uses.
Yeah.
And
There's another, and I
That
have,
doesn't show up on here, but it is in the
And they're
draft.
limited by.
It is in the draft.
okay.
By the square, there's a square foot limiting. Yeah.
5-90 is where all the accessory uses are.
Yeah, it's under the article on uses.
Okay, as long as we have it
It's
in there.
in there.
they're there.
It's in there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but they provide a nice service, and,
If you don't
Yeah,
get.
in
other areas.
yes.
They're
Well,
not in every redevelopment zoning district. They're only in a couple of different ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're very clear on it, yeah.
As long as you're selling more than a timeshare. It's
Okay, I'll move on to the RDB2. RDB2 zoning district, this is essentially along Main Street. This is the traditional development patterns of Main Street. You're looking for urban infill. You're generally looking for retail, restaurant on the first floor, and then professional services, residential on the upper floors. Again, looking at the use chart, we probably want to deal with they don't have the FAR max in that one. Just make sure it corresponds with the underlying land use.
Well, that
in there.
should be throughout.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll hear that common bit. They've just some of them they draw. Well, first of all, part of the issue is they're carrying forward some flaws in our current
Right.
development standards, and
We don't want
opportunity to
that.
fix it.
Well,
Again, just so you know, the Main Street, it doesn't cover the entire length of Main Street. It's essentially from Main Street to just
From A1A
Peninsula.
to,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, you
Hollywood.
don't mean that Clarion is bringing forward flaws and you're allowing them to.
No, we're addressing them all.
Okay.
That's what we're pointing out here.
Okay.
And that's where we want your feedback. If there's things, it's quite a large undertaking, so, and we have a lot of staff looking at it, but if more eyes looking at it, any issues that we need to address, let me know. In terms of uses, it's, again, multifamily, upper story dwelling. The upper story dwelling, that is a new use. This is to clarify, to be honest, on our current code, one of the issues is we allow multifamily in the zone, the same thing we have downtown, we allow in the traditional development area. But what our code doesn't allow is if somebody just has a shop and then one resident above, technically you can't have that. So under the new code, they've addressed it by having this new use called upper story dwelling. So
Thank
that's
God.
good.
Yeah.
Good that they're addressing that.
Way overdue.
In terms of commercial, I would suggest adding bank again back into this particular zoning
Let's do
district.
that. Let's do that.
And again, parcel services. Again, now this particular area of Main Street isn't really designed to have the large scale projects, but I think you still would have maybe the corresponding type services, either for the nearby residences or the tourist.
Or the convention center.
Right.
The guy that needs the
Yeah.
copies and whatever.
And again, upper floor is the business and professional services allowed in that area.
Why would you not have professional services and offices on the first level?
Well, I mean, that's just a policy question for this board. I think in the past, when they did the redevelopment efforts, when you have professional offices on the ground floor, it kind of creates a dead space. What you're trying to create along Main Street, and same thing we have over on Beach Street in downtown, is you want the retail restaurants, creates more activity, draws people down the street. Versus when you have offices, and a good example of this is in downtown, look at the block between ISB and Bay Street where the safety council is. You have several shops and all of a sudden you hit some just offices, and
yeah.
basically the shoppers stop walking there because they think there's nothing beyond it, but you do have some restaurants and stores at the other end of the block. It just creates, you're trying to, in that traditional Main Street area, you're trying to create a activity that draws people down, and I think the E-zone, if you look at the E-zone master plan, talks about that also.
And I'd support that, really, if you think through it. I remember the controversy over the realtor who wanted the ground floor office on Beach Street.
Yeah.
And he wound up getting it after 2 or 3 years.
Well, they've ended up allowing one per block.
But this was a real cause célèbre on Beach Street. But in the reasoning against it, I think it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And on Main Street, it would make tremendous sense not to have professional offices. I think we have lawyers' offices closer to the river on the south side of the street there. And at night, at 5 o'clock, they're completely dead, closed up, shuttered, and dead. And I think we're trying to get away from that on Main Street.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Are you thinking of the attorney on Seabreeze?
No, on Main Street, we had, maybe we don't have them anymore, but we had lawyers on the ground floor on Main Street across from the laundromat in that stretch of buildings owned by the judge.
That's Stevens Tire?
No, way east of that. Way east of that. Across from the laundromat.
I don't think there's anybody there now.
We had several.
I'm thinking of the dry
attorneys
cleaner.
in there.
Yeah, I'm thinking of.
I don't think they're there currently.
Okay.
Yeah. You're going way back.
You're going way back.
I do go way back.
Back when they had a movie theater on.
All right, Jason, let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Within 10 years. It's within 10 years.
Okay. And there was Kay's Coach House there.
So essentially, looking at the retail, it's gift shops, floral shops, type of uses that I think we're looking for in the Main Street area. I don't see anything additional to add there. And then the last thing to talk about is food establishments.
Jason, go back just because I see it in a liquor store. You want to just touch?
Oh, yeah, we probably do need some feedback on that in terms of how we want to deal with.
Which you're still in
Packaged
RDB1?
liquor.
Yeah, package stores. I mean, remember, this would trap in, we can have it as a conditional use. This would be everything from something as a wine store, and I think that's really what's most intended for Main Street. We can have the conditions written to that, or it would not be extensive as like an ABC liquor, which is, there's two different licenses when it comes to the liquor store.
Right.
So there's the 2 APS, which is the beer and wine, and the 4 APS, which is the full liquor store. Currently, those full liquor stores only can be in shopping centers.
Well, we have them. Well, we have them on A1A.
Well, they might be grandfathered in, but
Grandfathered in.
yeah. But right now, the regulations are
Okay.
they're just in shop. The full, like the ABC liquor type are.
A real package store.
Yeah. So the question is, I guess, Reed, you bring it up. What's the feedback from the board on the liquor store? Do you want us to be able to still continue to allow at least wine, like a beer and wine type of side? We did have like one guy who was up in Ormond Beach was interested in bringing his wine store down into the Main Street area.
I think you go over to Park Avenue in Winter Park, and there's several little wine places where you can go in and you can get a glass and sit down. You can buy bottle, do all that.
Well, this is something different, though. This is a
Well, or
store,
even
sales.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to what you're talking about, a wine bar.
But he's saying that you
Okay.
could buy packaged liquor
Yeah.
to go.
But they got to go together. So you got to allow the retail store aspect, which is the liquor store, and you write the conditions so it's just the beer and wine sales. and then when I get to the
But a
food,
package
it's the
store,
boutique
You
bar.
cannot open the bottle in the
Right.
store and drink it.
Right. Is there a reason we don't want to have, because let's face it, we're not going to get a Publix in this zone or in this area, so we don't have to worry about a liquor store then if it has to be tied into a grocery store or shopping center.
Teresa, what do you think on having a package store on Main Street?
I defer to the, I do have one,
I'm not trying to put
but.
you on the spot.
Yeah.
I think you just...
I really do defer to what professional planners.
Okay.
Well, I'm a professional
know.
planner, and I drink, and in fact, I like cigars too. But what I think is what we did in downtown, I think, is a good model. And if you've
That's
looked
what I-
at
yeah.
what we've done there,
Let's follow
at
that.
those boutique and if you go down there now to what is it, McKay's, next to McKay's, there's a nice
The
little-
bottle caps is a beer and wine, just a 2/8 glass.
And it's working.
Yeah.
I think a straight package store does become problematic.
I agree.
A straight package store.
I
It
agree.
it needs to have that retail aspect to it.
Absolutely.
That social aspect to it, yeah.
Absolutely.
And no, if there is, however the licensing works, because I know that gets really complicated,
Well,
no takeaway windows. You go in the store. Everything's in the store.
Absolutely.
Jason?
Okay. Now, when it comes to food establishments, carrying forward the bars as conditional uses in this zoning district. Boutique bars, that would be new. That's what we began to talk about. That would be associated, again, carrying forward what we did in downtown. That's how you would allow the wine bar aspect of the retail beer and wine. And then we don't need to talk about the internet. I think we've dealt with the cafe. Brew pub, that's something new. I think that you would want to allow that. Again, just a mix of restaurant and entertainment uses. And then I think we already had the discussion about add the specialty eating uses. That's your ice cream shops and coffee shops.
By brew pub, do you mean on-site brewing? Like out at
Let me see how.
BJ's?
Yeah, again, I think
It
this is a.
mini,
Yeah.
This is again another trend in planning that probably popped up during the '90s, and they probably put it in their other codes, and they're carrying it forward to ours.
microbrewery.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the the definition is drinking establishment that produces. Yeah, they produce the stuff on site,
On-site.
and
Because
then
I-
you have an associated restaurant or.
Okay, because I will say, like out with BJ's, when I remember when that came to the planning board, they actually do have a takeout for their on-site brew, their micro brewing, their beer. And that takeout is a little different than a package store takeout because they're doing it on-site. So
And it's a restaurant.
but there
The
had to be,
takeout-
there was something that had to happen at the planning board level, and I can't remember
Okay.
how they did it, special use, something, because normally you can't out in that zoning go do that. So whatever had to happen there would have to be
Caref-
taken into account here, so it doesn't just turn into, again, a straight
Yeah,
package store.
Well, because most restaurants, like if you go to the Oyster Pub and order a sandwich, you can't take a beer to go.
Right, but a brew pub, you can go just get their brews and take their brews and leave with
mean
them.
the
That was
package-
a commercial planned development. That's why you could have spelled it in within.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it did go through a PD.
But it was a PD process.
there was also- I don't
There
know-
was still something else I thought.
I know we
remember
dealt with
that
an issue. I
happened.
can't remember if it was resolved or not. We're doing some tweaking
Because
to
even the
the.
PD didn't allow it because of the licensing or
I
something. There was
don't think
something
they
that had to
They
happen.
didn't have takeout on International Speedway Boulevard.
Yeah.
Well, I know there was an issue out there, and I can't remember. I have
Yeah,
to
me
check how
neither, but
we
that would be
resolved it.
something to find out.
We did some tweaks
how it
to the
impacts.
alcohol
Yes, we did.
provisions citywide.
To allow it?
City-
Not-
Well, there was an issue with Tijuana Flats. Like our alcohol provisions as they were not allowing like a restaurant like that to sell. Like you had to have beer from a tap, and
Right.
they just sell it in the bottle.
Right,
We had to
right,
make some
right,
revisions.
right. There's a difference.
Remember that? I'd have
I
to.
can't remember it. It was very
Because it
complicated,
makes me want to drink.
like alcohol is.
We'll look in.
Okay,
Moving on, Jason.
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, let me move on to, it should go a little quicker because each of these zoning districts kind of build upon each other. Gateway mixed use is very similar to, it's the portion of Main Street closer to the river. Basically, it's the same provisions as the rest of Main Street. The only thing it adds is the ability to have some auto-related type uses, because this is down towards the end where you have the gas station, you have Stevens Auto. So essentially that's the same. So I think most of my comments from RDB2 would just carry forward, and just what you see in there, the only difference between RDB2 and RDB3 is we're carrying forward those conditional use provisions as it relates to auto-related uses down at that end. And I think our direction is keep.
And you're all happy with that?
Well, remember, we had the E-zone.
Which
So either they do the E-zone overlay.
Which trumps it.
Well, they can either
or.
develop to that, or they have to stick to the exact underlying zoning.
Yeah.
So hopefully you might see some of that move on.
Yeah. And then we can redo it all.
Yeah.
No evidence.
So unless there's any other specific questions on RDB3, I'll just move on. I'm trying to see if I had any. I didn't know. It looks like they got the use or the development standards fairly correct. So in RDB4, this is again. This is very similar to RDB2. The only difference is this is along the boardwalk. This is Dino zoning. So
You can't vote.
Can't vote.
Say nothing.
And essentially, it's the same, but it allows more amusement uses
Yeah.
in that district. So a lot of the comments are about the same.
Yeah, amusements, but no jesters.
You and your father-in-law. Yeah.
So unless there's any questions about the RDB4,
Why do you have boardwalk ad?
oh, maybe there is something I need to talk to you about.
Page
So-
17?
This either I'm going to have to talk to Clarion about the definition of parks and parkway, or maybe we need to have a separate use called boardwalk. Again,
Boardwalk, okay.
I think separate boardwalk definition.
Absolutely.
I think,
Yeah.
I
Not
do
a
too.
park.
No.
yeah.
I really think you need to have it its own.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Again,
Yeah.
this is they've done codes in Henderson and places that don't have boardwalks. So yeah, I think we will add that. And we'll check on the helicopter landing issue as we talked about in the RDB1. And I think the only other thing is parcel services. I've already talked about why we'd add that,
Yeah.
and then special eating, why we'd add that. So
And pier, add that?
yes, and pier should allow our pier, which exists from front.
Yeah.
Yes.
In case it slows down, we got to rebuild it.
Yeah. Yeah, if it closed down for more than 3 months, then you wouldn't be able to rebuild the pier. So, that'd be good.
Having an effect right now?
No, they'd be out there on plywood rafts fishing, right?
Well, they almost had the ball fall on the pier just recently.
Me too,
Yeah,
okay.
they removed it. Yeah, that
Yeah,
big-
it fell Sunday night.
yeah.
All right,
Okay, RDB5, unless there's any other
While you
questions
were
on
in Hawaii.
RDB4.
let's finish
Jake.
up.
RDB5 is Atlantic Avenue retail. Really, the only difference here, I think, we had quite a lengthy discussion on a few months. Well, I don't know if some of our new board members were here, but remember, this is the big difference in this zoning code. And we probably through this process, especially as we get to module 3, we'll need to deal with. This is the zone district. The only difference between it and Main Street is the fact it doesn't allow parking,
Right,
Yeah, the
and
only problem-
that's creating some of the vacancies along
right.
Atlantic Avenue.
I have a question, and I'm more concerned on the east side of RDB5 than I am on the west side. Why do they not allow, as a, at least as a special use permit, restaurants with drive-through services? When we had a Wendy's that was there, and we used to have a Steak and Shake that was there, and both of them had drive-through services.
Well, again, now this is kind of where, I guess that's where we need the feedback from the board. This is where they are starting to break down the difference between, we don't currently have this in the code per se, unless it's somewhere we do have some development conditions where you don't allow drive-through, so I'll have to double check to see how
That's
it's
why I
currently written in
clarified it.
RB5.
On the east side
Right.
of RDB5, I do not see a problem with having, in other words, along A1A on the east side where Wendy's, a Steak and Shake used to be.
And McDonald's.
And McDonald's, well, McDonald's was RDB4.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about RDB5 now. I think that we should allow as a special use, that way you give the power to the city commission, the restaurants with drive-through services. That way they look at the surrounding area, see if it's going to be problematic to the neighborhoods, but they have the ability to grant the
RDB.
Especially since there's so terrible parking there that,
Yeah,
you
what
know.
are the implications of that?
Well, you have an empty
Well-
Wendy's right now.
RDB5 isn't on the east side of A1A.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is south of Main Street.
Oh, where it's on Ocean Avenue.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Which I think,
Isn't that in conflict with the whole E-zone,
Yes,
where
it
we're
is.
trying to
and to some extent, it's in conflict
Yeah.
with the redevelopment, just the overall redevelopment
Right,
plan.
we're on that side, we're trying to package larger scale
Back off.
developments on that side instead of the diversity of ownership. Is that how it is in the E-zone?
But right now, the E-zone stops in Harvey.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't
is
go,
in conflict.
the E-zone doesn't go up to Ocean, does it?
Yes. No, but it goes,
Not Harvey.
but part of that
think he needs
zoning goes to Harvey. And
Yeah.
that's where the E-zone ends at Harvey. So you got almost half of that RDB.
I understand, but I'm looking at.
The rewrite
I'm
does
looking
not
at empty.
allow.
I'm looking at an empty Wendy's building, and if it's not incorporated within it, it will not be grandfathered in, and I don't know what's going to happen. I know Ocean Deck bought it, but
I'm going to suggest to you that, again, creating the walkability in this whole area, it's not a good idea
To have
to
drive.
introduce these auto-related uses.
Right.
We have enough opportunities in other places, coming here, getting here, whether that happens to be on some of our, coming across the bridges, further down on A1A, perhaps. But in this area, I would suggest that we try
Leave
to
it
make
as it
this.
is.
okay. Well, right now,
Built
when you look at restaurants, and the only reason why I'm saying this is that I'm looking at a lot of empty property, and looking at restaurants with drive-through services. The only thing that I see here is downtown in the RDD3. So if we're not going to put it on A1A, at least let's put it on ISB, where there is a lot of vacant property there. We need to have some development.
We'll get that. The one concern I'll just let you know on ISB, especially as you look at it in the Main Street area, those are very shallow lots in terms of their depth.
Yeah, but
and
you
to
can
real-
accumulate more than one piece of property,
but
put it
see-
together.
But
and
no, then you
try-
go into the residential area.
Right.
You can't do that.
You're getting into the service.
You've gone into a different zoning.
Okay, I'm only, okay, I'm
And that's an
sorry.
issue
Okay,
we need
Yeah.
to,
I'll back off.
and I will get that to when we get to the new zoning district.
You said it back off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jason.
We love you, you got one. Fred. All right.
Really, I'm looking at my notes. Special eating, we just need to add, and the bank adds. So really, it's the same comments as before, unless there's any other. Really carrying forward some of the same comments we had from the Main Street zoning districts. Let's see if you have any other ones.
No,
From the-
RDB 6.
Okay.
Do you think a specialty bakery would ever be of interest on some of these areas?
Yep.
Yeah, I would think so. And
And I don't see them listed in any of them.
That would be under specialty
Specialty
eating.
eating.
yeah,
Oh, okay, then that,
like a Panera Bread or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one question. If we're on RDB6 now on permitted uses, when you were talking about church, I remember one time when I was on the planning board, somebody tried to make the point that a church service was a feeding facility. I mean, I don't know where that went and how that was.
I think we're still dealing with that issue. The churches.
Because if you're going to be
I'll
adding.
legal answer that one.
They're not
Sure,
supposed to
has
be
a-
doing feeding programs.
We're trying to create, single-family residences, and we want to make sure that we do not put feeding facilities.
Well, maybe churches
That's all being worked
have,
on.
maybe churches have to go.
Excuse me?
We've addressed that before you were appointed. So I mean, that's
The whole social service
that
issue.
went through that social service
All right.
type thing.
Okay.
In RDB 6, this is the Surfside Village residential use. Just, I think you're all familiar with it. That's basically the neighborhood to the south of Main Street and just north of ISB. And basically, it's a single-family district. It does allow multifamily as a conditional use existing, so you would just carry through those provisions. There's a little, must be a typographical mistake. They did put special eating in this neighborhood, or in this zoning district. Unless we want to have single-family homes and some little coffee shops, or remove it. And the laundromat also probably needs to remove some commercial uses. Professional offices are currently a conditional use in this district, so we'd carry that forward. And I believe we already have had a discussion as it relates to the, last month with the redevelopment plan about short-term rental lodging, so we'd remove that.
Okay.
And then that's basically, unless there's any other questions on
But
RDB6.
the short term is part of the E-zone and the comp plan changes.
Well, that one little area, but they would have to go by that would be allowed under the overlay.
Right.
RDB 8.
How about RDB 7?
Oh, come on now.
You want to talk about your, this is
Yeah.
zoning. This is riverfront lodging. The one issue we do need to deal with on this in terms of the chart, this is a very interesting glitch in our current zoning code. There are no development standards for it. So I believe what we'll, for now, unless you, depending on your feedback, just probably the best standards to apply would use the same that are in the Surfside neighborhood, similar zoning, residential, single-family zoning type standards.
What's the difference between low-intensity residential and single-family?
Oh, low intensity is single-family. I was just, yeah. Larger lots, so therefore lower
Okay.
intensity.
All right, so all we're allowing there is residential.
It's
Correct.
basically what's allowed there currently.
Correct.
Which also includes B&Bs.
And bed and breakfasts.
B&Bs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
that's
actually
an
our
allowable
current.
use. You can't escape them.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. That's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I do have a note. I believe they put in churches on that one, so we probably want to remove that.
Wait, RDB
Nope.
7?
You want
Wait, RDB 6 are you talking
RDB
No,
7.
RDB 7, they,
So I could just declare the house a church and
Church.
take it
And
off
be-
the tax roll?
Wait, with the St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church is in RDB 7.
Yeah,
It's grandfathered in.
yeah, so we're there.
we're just
Grandfathered
saying,
in, but what if something were to burn or something like that, then...
It could
No, the issue
It
is,
doesn't go that far, does it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. I know that it's specifically between auditorium and
Aura.
Aura, and it looks right.
I mean, actually, Earl Street, I'm sorry. Earl Street.
oh, you're saying this,
Yeah, that's,
St. Demetrius
Where's
Greek
the-
Orthodox Church.
yeah.
Right there is I believe, in RDB 7.
let me, I'll double check that.
I think it's at the end of that.
I thought it's at the end.
You sure it's
On
not
the
one of
other
these other zoning districts?
Whenever I go to the church, I take a right auditorium, and I take an immediate left, and that, to me, right there, looks like the church is right in there.
Yeah, because when we do overflow parking, auditorium's the first street to the south, and Earl Street's the first street.
Let's
to-
take a look at
to
that.
the north.
Okay, I tell you what, if it is in the RDB 7, we'll keep it as a conditional use.
Right.
And write it.
That if we burn it,
Fa-
if it burns
be
down, we can
built.
build it.
It
Yeah.
was location of a residence.
Otherwise, what are we going to do for Greek?
I know.
You know.
Otherwise, you're not invited to the Greek festival this year.
No calamari, dude.
And if it's not in that zoning district, we'll remove it. So we'll
Right.
just
All right.
double check that.
Now can we move on to RDBA?
Yes. RDB 8, this is essentially the entertainment mix. This is the entertainment mixed use zoning district. This is around the convention center. Let's see if there are any in the development standards. Probably they did something kind of funky with the less than 100 feet and then over 100 feet based on the street frontage. I think we'll just correct that to. I think what they're trying to do is bring in some standards that are currently in the code, but we'll deal with that a little differently. It's not consistent with the other areas. They do it by use.
We got that helicopter landing thing in there. Somebody likes their helicopter.
Just a rectangle.
Well,
Actually, I think the less than 100 feet, the way I understand how these work, The only thing it affect, because you do have small lots, several small lots in there.
I think at one time we did. I don't know if we currently do.
Okay,
Because I know I've seen old maps where like some of the parking lots were still residential. You know, like we were
Okay.
going through the inventory of the historic, and now it's all large.
if it is all large, it's fine, but if there's
Yeah.
anything less than 100, the only thing that less than 100 deals with are the side yard, interior yard, the setbacks.
Yeah.
They're small,
I think there's a different way
obviously.
of doing it, so I'm going to work
Okay.
clear. It just doesn't seem to be consistent with what they've done in
Okay.
the other zoning districts.
Okay.
Let's see. In terms of uses, this is very similar. It's kind of a hybrid between. Well, it's probably very similar to the RDB 1 and 4, where it allows that's hotels, allows different commercial uses as conditional. So a lot of those comments I made in RDB 1 would carry forward in this zoning district, and then it allows amusements. Because this zoning district is where the
Daytona Lagoon.
the lagoon is. So unless there's any other comments on that particular,
Nope.
I think
Okay.
this was great.
so and then in terms of the other, just to give you, I didn't really lay it out in the zoning in the map, but just to let you know that you get the 3 additional zoning districts. ISB corridor, I think I was beginning to say the issue there is the shallow lot, so we got to find a way to, we're working on the streetscape, but we also want to look at our development standards on the private property to improve that corridor.
And
But
you border residential property.
I'm sorry, what?
You border residential property, one lot in, you're
Right,
into a
and that's the issue. And currently it's zoned to BR2, which really leads towards larger shopping centers. It's just not feasible, and I think that's what's kind of creating some of our problem. Why ISB looks the way it is, we just don't have a economically feasible zoning district in that area. What I suggest is what some cities have done and face this same thing where you have shallow lots. You're not going to put single family on it because they're not going to want to live right on a major thoroughfare. What you do is you allow some sort of multi-family, smaller, low, medium intensity multifamily uses that are compatible with the residential behind, but at the same time, their access doesn't directly come on the ISB. I've seen this development pattern be used in some other northern cities, so it might be where they face the same issue where a road was developed really with single-family homes. Over time, it turned into really a major thoroughfare. You got platted lots don't fit the nature of the street.
The option is to go one street. In this this instance, to the north and the south, right?
Just one lot. You mean one lot?
One lot.
Right.
With the problems on the north side, not on the south side.
Well, it's on the south side too in some places. Now, in some places you do have a larger area where we have been looking at some larger scale projects. So you would want to allow for those in those particular places. But I would say where we are dealing with this issue of just like lots that are 100 feet deep to allow some sort of development that is compatible with the neighborhood, the same thing, taking consideration of the street.
Well, what if, now, some of these planned commercial developments, if it starts going into a different zoning area, would it be something that could be brought before the commission? Like let's say if there was somebody that did want to develop something over there, can they package the zoning that fronts ISB with a residential zoning as long as they purchase all the property owners and
It's
do that?
possible, but part of what we're trying to do in the Clarion is, is to, I think one of the issues I've heard stresses leading to this is kind of reduce the need so much for doing planned developments.
Right.
So we want to design a zoning district that works economically for
You can
this situation.
That's possible.
If you can.
You can, but see, what you're basically telling me is that you're going to, that we're going to be limited to multifamily uses.
No,
for
there'll be some other uses too. I'm just
other-
giving that as an example, type of use that would be
Of a
compatible.
residential use that
Yeah.
could come out on
Right.
international.
Yeah, I think that
I think you want to go more towards residential, and especially in
It's
a lot of
blended-
that
it's
stretch.
blended- It's a blended
Well,
use.
I understand that. would
Get
be
away from
more-
this strip
I
appeal.
understand that would be more of a transitional zoning to a residential, but
Right.
the reality is, you're probably going to be more likely to be able to sell it off as to some kind of retail-oriented, you know.
Well, right now, you know, it's a lot of those properties. I mean, it's probably, I think the reason why they're sitting there,
There is.
there's.
It depends, because there's different aspects, you know, once you get west of Peninsula, they're shallower. Between Peninsula and Grandview, on the south side, the property's deep. There's different issues in these different
Yeah.
areas. So
The
I think-
north side.
So I think, you know.
That's why I
there's-
asked a developer who is
Somebody
a
could
Yes,
go through there
yes,
and
he
say,
could. Yes,
where
he
the-
could.
Where the subway, like Denny's used to be, and
Right.
all, you know, all that, those properties are deeper, and
Yes, he
there's
can.
an ability to do things there
Yeah.
that
Okay.
can't do their side, but that ability's still there too.
Right.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You would also mix in some ability to do some, commercial uses there too.
Right.
What else you got for it, Jason?
And then in terms of, let's see what's some of the other zoning districts, so you, just to give you an idea. Oh, RDB 10 is a residential district. That'll pattern very much after the Surfside Village. And RDB 11 is a multifamily, would just allow higher intensity multifamilies where there is level 3 land use in the Main Street area.
Okay.
All right, with respect to our proposed rewrite here of the Land Development Code, do you want to come back with more sections at the next meeting, or are we done through what you want to do with us?
I think right now we've gotten through Module 2, gotten your feedback, going to combine it in what we've heard from the Midtown Board and from the Downtown Board, and get the feedback back to Clarion so they can make the corrections. The next time you see this, we'll be dealing with Module 3, which is the architectural standards for development.
Okay. Very good.
Also, one other thing is let you know that as individuals, not necessarily this board, you can also make comments, and we still have the website there. You can call the planning department, so there are many ways for the public, you, to continue to provide your comments.
Very good. Reed, you got a redevelopment projects update?
Sure.
Don't sit down.
Let's, yeah, stay here, Jason, for just one moment. First of all, I've got the red line that we just sent out to the city commission. This is what was approved to go to the commission from the Community Redevelopment Agency.
I asked Reed to give us a red line from what we approved last
Right,
month,
right.
so we could look at it and make sure it was in sync with where we thought we approved. So we can take a look at that, and
Thank
if
you.
we have any concerns, you can express them, I guess, directly to the city commission or whatever.
Thank you.
Right, there's,
Not at this meeting.
To our
right?
chairman.
Not
He
at this
can-
You
meeting.
mean this is what, we took the 10-minute recess to,
No,
what are you
No.
talking about, the red line?
No, when we went through the redevelopment area, the redevelopment plan, and made our recommended
Oh, okay,
changes,
yes, I know what, all
and I
right.
asked for a
The
red
plan,
line
not
of
the comp
that,
plan, yes.
so that we
Okay.
could look at it and make sure we were in sync,
This
just
is
Okay.
so, for our information.
This is not the comp plan
At
stuff.
our
this is-
leisure, not-
Yes.
Yeah, at our leisure, not tonight,
Thank you.
Got it.
because we don't need to
Thank
take a 30-minute break to review that. Read the
sure,
redevelopment then.
sure, just
Oh,
the...
yes, I know, I went through all that.
The other things that we had were on the ISP streetscape. We've slowed that down to allow the consultants to look at some different and interesting alternatives, kind of like we did with the E-zone master plan, and putting together lots of alternatives that we think we ought to be looking at, not just one option. And so that direction has been given. They're expecting to come back and do something like we did with the E-zone, and we go to the Peabody Auditorium and have a charrette and with the consultants, and they'll take us through these different options, and we'll, as the public, everyone will get a chance to get their input at that point on the first look at what we might be able to do on East ISB as well as that section in downtown and West ISB.
Okay.
Both sides of the bridge.
I
Okay?
have a question. How will that affect the proposed, the Phase 1 development at the Blue Water Gateway? Because they're supposed to tie in
Sure.
to that streetscape.
We've been in communication with them about
Okay.
that,
I just wanted to
and
make sure. Okay.
they're working with us. So there's kind of a way to fit in as we go forward. We talked about that with the marina.
Okay, because I just wouldn't want them to have to come back through the PD process because something might be wildly different from since that is a PD, I wouldn't want them to actually have to pay more money just to meet our new standards if they change from what's in there. So I would just hope that we keep that in mind and consideration. Okay.
We are.
Great.
Okay, thank you. The going on, I have peer update in here. The storm. We got a good chance to see what at least the tropical storm that did come through was a little bigger than I think some people expected.
The no-name hurricane.
And it did pop up. Besides the ball that got blown off and the high winds, we had some pretty good seas that came in too, and we did knock off about the last 10 feet of the planks. And if you hear that those are the old planks. They were expected to do that. They're designed to do that because you don't want that pressure under and pushing up your structure. So we weathered the storm in that regard.
Good.
Okay.
And met design standards.
And that's correct. And it is still our historic pier. So, moving on to Surfside Historic District, just to let you know that the Historic Preservation Board is getting closer to some design standards in that proposal for a local district. And Jason, do you have any update on that for what's going to happen next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock?
At the Historic Board?
Okay.
Yeah. Other than I think they're going to review it.
Yeah, there's going to be a review, so when we get more information, we'll get you up to date, or you're certainly welcome to attend the meeting.
Could you tell us just the status of where they stand on Main Street? Putting it all in the local district, or recognizing
They're
still dealing with all of that? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Where is their meetings here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
6 o'clock next Tuesday. Okay. That's all I have.
Board comments. Start with, we'll go around. Dino?
I'm good.
Good. Gary?
Yeah, I hate to raise this issue, but at the mayor's cabinet, we are always talking about the street lights, on A1A and in the redevelopment area. And so it just caught my attention, and I walk early in the morning, and I realized that in our redevelopment area, 90% of the internally lit street signs are burned out. I thought we were doing an economy thing, and we weren't putting any bulbs inside them until I got to the corner of Main Street and A1A, and one of them is flickering. One is on, two are burned out, and then I decided, well, I'm going to track this. And so I went up and down A1A, and I don't know whose responsibility it is, but I think it looks awful. At Ocean Walk, they're all burned out at that intersection. Everyone is dark. I went farther north, and in Ormond Beach, they have the same lit street signs, and 90% of them were on. So I'd like to pass on to my colleagues on the staff that really, and this is over a month now, they've been burned out, that really something probably should be done. I don't know if the fixtures themselves are gone, are oxidized, they have to be replaced, or whether it's just the bulbs. But we need to have this street signs lit.
And Gary, do I understand 90% on A1A? Was that the survey area?
Yeah,
Okay.
out.
Okay.
One is flickering. I think 11 are dead, and 3 of them or 4 of them are working.
Well, it's my understanding, and I know others check into this, that every week we have somebody out there looking in the evening for the lights. And I know that some of that is
They look up.
FPL, and we have, those are issues where you have to work with another
The
company.
lights, I understand completely. I'm talking about the city-maintained, internally lit signs that say Main Street, Earl Street.
Those green ones,
Green
yeah.
signs that say.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Are they, my colleagues, are they out? Yeah, they're out, and they've been out for a while.
Okay, I will check into that.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Tim?
I've got a question. We approved, was it 2 meetings, or was the 2 meetings ago, 1 meeting ago, the parking lot, boardwalk parking lot?
Yeah.
The gentleman that did the presentation said that they were going to get started right away once they got our approval. Do you know when they're going to be starting? To bring that lot up to code?
They are starting, I know, in engineering. I'm not sure when they're getting in the ground yet.
They're starting their engineering?
No, they got to finish up their plans and.
Because
It's
because he said when he was here that everything was done and all they were waiting
I
for our
haven't
approval to
seen- I have
get
not
going
seen
on.
anything.
Just when you see those site plans come through and you approve them, there is a kind of a process where they submit their final plans based on your. So just because you approve it that night doesn't mean they're approved. Well, I mean, they're approved, but they have to make a final submittal to the city, what's called the final the
Yeah,
plan,
and-
right?
yeah,
and
and all
so
I'm asking is
that was
we're-
that's just issued. I want to say last week.
So they've got their
Yes.
their building permit, whatever you call it.
Right.
You know, it's not a
And
building.
they have 2 years from that day, so they better get.
No,
they
code
don't.
needs to get onto them long before.
No, but I'm saying.
If they're not proceeding with
Right.
their construction, they're in non-compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they need to.
Yeah,
That's it.
they can't drag us out for 2 years.
No. What I'm saying is they're just eating up the time that they can have a parking lot there.
Right.
Yeah, that 2 years has started. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But-
two
but you
years,
mean
that
but
2
wait a
years
minute,
has started.
Yeah, but they cannot operate non-compliance for 2 years. No.
No, the intent is after Biketoberfest, because we don't, in the middle of everything that's going on, there are issues. But I would hope that after Biketoberfest, we get to work.
Well, and my only concern is that we're going to hear the excuse for Biketoberfest, and then it's going to be race week, and then it's going to
Or no, it's going to be Turkey Rod Run.
Yeah, so I'm just
Okay.
that's just my concern.
We have an expectation.
Now is the time for them to be doing the work during the off-season.
It is, and that's the intent, and I think we all have expectations.
Tracy? Dave?
Nothing.
I just have a few quick, John's mentioned this a couple times, Reed, and help educate me. Why does downtown and such have staff and Main Street doesn't? And who do they have and why doesn't Main Street?
Well, first of all, it's not.
Although we love you.
Sure. It's not, first of all, it's not black and white. Jason is working in the Main Street area, and we have some of our strengths and specialties. So to say that we don't have somebody in one place or another, I've got Charles Bryant, who's very active. While his primary duty may be Midtown, he has time that he spends, and we have to mark these time cards and everything for audit, because what CRA we are in is key. So he spends time over in these different districts, and he works with the demolitions and some of the special projects. He's looking and reporting on graffiti and making those drives in the field. So you've got that kind of activity going on that's overlapping. My job is primarily with the E-zone and doing some of the work with the businesses, ISB, that part of it. So I spend a significant amount of time in Main Street, and this pulls us away. We have a position that we basically eliminated that is now been considered moved over to the city manager's office. If you've looked at the budget, there's an E-zone manager position that's open right now. Applications are being taken, and there will be a position that was created for that purpose. So that will be your person who will have that concentration of work over there in the Main Street area. So we're actually getting some manpower back.
Good. All right. Next question I had is, there's some dredging going on right by the Main Street Bridge. Does anybody know why they're dredging that?
Good. I was wondering too.
I mean, it's been there for 2 or 3 weeks, and all the way up to the by where the walkover.
It's where they put in the new water line across south of the Main Street Bridge.
Does John know something? Come on, John. Educate us.
And while you're educating on that, let us know what they're doing at the corner of Main Street and Beach Street too.
You mean the black dirt?
No, they're planning it.
That's planning. That's the new recycled water. See the pink pipes? That's what they're doing there. And then they're doing the landscaping on top of that. No, several years ago they talked about the people walking across the water from the Main Street to the island. And they were going to dredge it. They put aside the money, I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever. They're now dredging that whole thing. They took away the pipes, the fence. That they're now those fences are gone, and they're taking the rock that they got out on the west side when they redid LPGA, and those fences are gone. They're putting in coral rock or keystone around it, and then they dig up that inlet so that people can't walk across into.
Cannot walk.
Cannot walk.
That was the problem.
Yeah, because it used to at low tide. You could wade across because there was only about this much space of water.
It became hobo hangout.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
so that's why
really it's a security measure by dredging. They're creating a moat.
Yeah, it used to be very deep there, and over time it filled in.
Yes.
So now they're going back to it, and what I don't understand is why they're putting that gunk next to the keystone. If you look at it, it by the News Journal Center, they just put the rocks there. Now they're digging up the gunk and putting it right next to the keystone.
They're just moving it and creating a deeper.
So you can't just walk anymore. That's what they're doing.
All right. I just could not fathom why they were spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Mr. Chairman, will the E-Zone manager be a support staff to this board? Is that what you said? Or could we talk briefly about the cart and the horse when it comes to this advisory board? And now we'll have different staffs. We'll have an E-Zone manager, and we'll have redevelopment, and
well,
what will the job description say?
The job description is out there and it's posted, and you can see on our website. And that particular position is intended to be that person that we were starting to describe as the person, whether as the E-Zone develops, what are they going to do first? Well, we want to deal with that primary tourist area out there with managing it, having someone, their eyes are on it all the time, not wait for Dino or anyone else have to call us and deal with the issues that are there as well as on Main Street. So from maintenance issues and making sure that all that happens to creating a tourist-friendly environment that is there.
Will that be independent of this board?
It'll
or
be.
Will that person work with this board?
This position may or may not. I don't know the details of that, and I don't recall seeing that in any job description.
Okay.
At the very least, I'd contemplate that person would report to us as.
If there are, just like police and code and everyone else, there'll be someone that will. I think if there are issues that are coming up, that'll be an opportunity.
Because we need to interact, and
sure,
so we want to interact. So
let's put it this way: when somebody is brought on board, that somebody will have an opportunity to come here and introduce themselves, and we can better understand what that initial position will be, because it'll change as the E-Zone itself changes. It'll still be incumbent upon us to look at redevelopment as redevelopment attracts hotels and other businesses to this area. It prepares for that.
Will the E-Zone person be funded out of the trust fund in the redevelopment area?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Well, there's an obvious link there, and again, maybe at our next meeting, we can talk about the cart and the horse. This board either is the cart or the horse, and staff is either the cart or the horse, or we're both horse and we're both cart. And I think as things get more complicated, I think it would be, I just like to, no, I don't like surprises. I just like to know what the drill is.
Yeah.
And I think we all would. What the expectations of staff are from us and what our expectations are to the staff. And this E-zone, the new E-zone manager too, would be very critical, very important.
Reed, if you could perhaps for our next package, get us out the qualifications or whatever it is, their job description, so we can all have that.
And a
be
chart.
informed.
Is there an organizational chart
Yeah,
of
that
how
would
this
be-
thing works?
Do we
they're
get to
supposed
hire him?
Who they report to and all that, you know. Okay, good. Okay. Shall we be adjourned? Thank you all.
Thank you.